Hey everybody, what's up? It's Yago and Mike. And we're the Conquerors International Strength Team doing another video of meeting the human behind the badge. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun today. It's gonna be some stunts as usual, and as always, I have to say this, everywhere we go, whatever you see us try, please don't do it at home. These are feats of strength. They're very, very real and very dangerous. You can and probably will get injured if attempting feats of strength without proper training, so don't do it. We're trained professionals and we know what we're doing most of the time. So anyway, I want you guys to meet who we're here with here in Rockford, Michigan with the police department. I want you to meet Officer.
Hi, I'm Ian Graham from the Rockford Department of Public Safety. I've been an officer here in Rockford for 13 years.
Hi, my name is Joel Katz with the Rockford Department of Public Safety. I've been here for about a year.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. We want the community to get to know law enforcement, put names with faces, and feel real comfortable and all that kind of stuff. So I want to thank you so much for doing this, but I also want to have some fun with you guys. Is that all right?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So what we have here are a number of feats of strength, and we probably won't go through all of them, but we're probably gonna do at least a few. But don't worry, we're gonna show you the technique, because obviously we're strong and all that kind of stuff. But these feats of strength are very, very dangerous. But there's a technique. There's a technique involved. Mike, where do you think we should start out?
Why don't we kind of start out like where we start out?
All right.
All right. So what I have here is a deck of cards, and what we do is we take these cards into our grip and we attempt to rip them in half in one shot. All right. So which one of you guys thinks that you've got some pretty decent grip strength? Do you want to start out by maybe just ripping one in half first, or?
Yeah, you might have to warm up.
You want to go the whole stack? So what I do is I take it in my grip like this, okay, and then I take my hand opposite of it, and then I try to break it that way and rip it in half. All right. If there's something else that feels more comfortable to you, you're welcome to do it.
Come on, you can do this.
Come on.
Come on. Come on.
Here he goes.
Come on, Jay. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, Jay.
Yeah.
It's a piece of cake. Come on. Come on. Technique looks good, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Come on.
Looks good. You got a bend going.
Yeah.
It's good technique.
Yep.
Even you're making the right face.
Right. You got the right face. You got the right face and everything.
Why are you smiling? Be mad.
Yeah. Come on.
All right, let's see where we're at.
All right.
Let's see where we're at.
I got half.
All right, so he mangled it a little bit. All right, he's a wonderful police officer. I don't think he's ready for the Conquerors strength team just yet.
Dang.
So, all right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this, and I'm just gonna show you kind of how we do it.
Oh yeah, come on.
Did you start it? You probably started.
It was. I will admit it was slightly started for me, but there you go. There's the first one.
All right. Now tell me a little bit about how you got to doing this with the Russian team or something.
Oh
like
yeah.
that? What happened there?
So several years ago, I was at the Arnold Classic down in Columbus, Ohio, and I was with a group of strong men down there, and right next to us was a group of strong men from Russia. And they didn't really think too much of the strong men from the United States. So every day they would come over and they would issue us a challenge. They would come over and they would say, "We would like to issue you a challenge." Right? And usually it had something to do with weightlifting. Well, one day, one afternoon they came over and they wanted to see who could rip a deck of cards in half the fastest. Well, everybody looked at me because I'm pretty good at ripping a deck of cards in half. And I immediately got filled with anxiety. You ever been filled with anxiety? I was filled with anxiety in that moment because they wanted to pull me up on stage and call in these big convention halls. There's just thousands of people, so they called a big crowd up and they were pitting it, the Russian champion versus the American strongman, right? So I'm like, oh jeez. So I was, needless to say, I was a little nervous, but went up there and took my deck of cards, and the guy met me at the top of the steps and he said, no, you will use Russian cards. And just as I was starting to get on top of my anxiety, all of a sudden it just spiked back up again, right? But some of the guys gathered around me, prayed about it, calmed that anxiety down a little bit, and we went up there and I was able to beat him. But not only did I beat him, and then I took the half that I had ripped after I had seen him still struggling, slapped one half down, and I attempted to. I think you might have set me up here. It's cat's fault.
Come on. You're in deep water now. You can't quit. Come on.
There we go.
Come on. Oh man, I hate it when it's like that. Come on.
Hey yo.
And it's right there too. It's just that little piece that's hanging on.
There we go. I was able to get the second half. Good job. So that's gonna get edited.
All right, let's try some steel. You guys want to check this out?
Yeah.
All right. You guys probably saw we had a friend of mine, Officer Gomez, give this a shot. You want to?
I saw that. I would love to give it a shot.
All right. So what we do is we take this. This is a real steel bolt. Got it from Menards. We take it, get it started by pushing down on the thigh, so that it bends quite a bit, and then I finish it off by cranking down, kind of like a tricep push down.
Okay.
So once it's bent, then I crank it the rest of the way down, and then squeeze it into a U.
Okay.
Now, I'll hand you a towel, because I do have gloves on. There is a pain tolerance.
All right.
And it's going to be pretty intense. Now don't worry, we're going to be cheering you on, man. We're going to be cheering you on. I know your face is going to turn red.
On your leg.
Yep. Push down everything you got. Come on now. Come on, let's go. Push. Come on, Officer Ian. Let's go. Come on. Everything you got. Push down. Come on. All right. Come on, see what we got.
Oh, we got a bed.
There it is. Good job.
Look at that, Gomez. There's a bed. I don't think I can go from here, though.
All right.
No, that's not happening.
Hey, good job.
Finish that off for me?
Sure.
It does get you in the palms, doesn't
Man, it does. Brutal. All right, I'll see if I can finish this thing off.
Come on, Yago. Here we go. Come on, big dog. Here we go. Come on. Come on, Yago. Here we go. Come on. Get it.
It's bent the opposite way of the bend I started.
Very nice.
Nice and snappy. Come on, Yago.
Bingo!
There we go. What?
Jeez. That one was a fighter.
Tell me about
It's
it, man.
warm. Feel it. It's hot.
Oh, no kidding. Friction. Well done. Good thing we have fire trucks there.
Right. No kidding. All right.
I got this one I haven't seen. I'm curious about this.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna have you put it over your head. But what I am gonna do is I'm just gonna ask you to see if you can grab it at the very end down here and pick it up and keep it parallel to the floor. So whoever wants to give it a try to pick it up, keep it parallel to the floor.
You got this. Piece of cake. Easy.
Not gonna happen, right?
Hold on, try that out.
Try the other arm. There you go. So that weight gets pretty heavy out there, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on. You got it. Oh, it's easy.
Yeah,
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to take both of these axes at the same time out to my sides, and I'm just going to, without trying to bend my arm at all, just gonna lower the sharp ends down onto my face.
Oh,
Just, wanna see that?
get a med bag.
Yeah. You all set? All right, here we go. Probably put my sunglasses on.
Yeah, there you go. Safety first.
Safety first. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Focus. Oh no,
Yeah, there's a lot of easier ways to get a nose job.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think we got extra razors. You need to shave.
Now here's a little fact about the horseshoe. A little local fact. The Conquerors, we've been around for a very long time. We do school assemblies all over the world, and we were doing an event here in Rockford, and we had a couple schools there at this location. And usually what we do is we invite somebody from the crowd to come try to bend our horseshoe just to prove that it's real. And we had, and I'm not kidding, I think he was either a junior or a senior from Rockford High on the wrestling team, and he actually bent our horseshoe. I never saw something like that. So not to put any pressure on the gentleman standing next to me, I said, hey, if 16, 17-year-old kid was able to do it, maybe they got a shot. So, all right, so I'm gonna teach either one of you who wants to give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot.
All right, I'm gonna teach you the technique that we use in order to bend this horseshoe. And then I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to try to bend this horseshoe. If you should hear a popping sound coming from this area, it's gonna be the tricep dislocated from the bone, and that's a real good time to stop.
That's bad.
Good time to stop.
That's bad.
All right, so I use a push-pull method. So I grab the horseshoe, I base it pretty high on the thigh, and I push one end away from me, and I pull one end towards me. That opens it up to the shape of an S. And then a lot like the bolt, I grab that end, once I get it there, I grab that end and I do a tricep push down, and that opens it up the rest of the way to the S. Or by that time you might have to grind it on your thigh to finish it out. Okay? Very, very painful. Remember, it's all smoke and mirrors. All this stuff is fake, right?
It's all smoke and mirrors.
All right, come on, you got this. You got this. Come on, Ian, let's go. And go. 1, 2, come on. 3, come on. 4, he got it. 5, you 6, you 7. Come on. 8, 9,
Come on.
10. Dude,
That's not bad.
you want to get? Hey,
It's the gloves, man. It's about the gloves.
Do you want to try to finish that?
How would so? How?
All right. Yeah, let's give him a shot to finish. Okay, so here's what I would do in your shoes. Then I go from here all the way down.
So you hold it with your right.
Yep. I hold it here, and then I go like this. Boom. Woo! Yeah, Rockford's in the house. Come on, let's go. Come on, you got it. Rockford PD's up in the house. Woo! There you go. Finish it off. Finish it off. Finish it off. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Woo! Woo! Give that up.
I'm done for the rest of the shift, though, man. I'm
Woo! Dude, hold on, I got you. Hey, remember that. Rockford PD's in the house. Oh.
That doesn't happen.
You just set the standard for all the other departments, so you know. Oh, dude, that is super legit.
That was crazy. Yelling helps, though. That pumped me up. There's magic in these gloves too, I think.
I'm telling you what.
Woo! Good job, man.
Thank you.
So,
I think Katz has tried it.
Well, I don't know.
have you thought about joining the strength team? Because I'm just saying, I mean,
I'm more of a mouth than a muscle, but I'll do what I can.
dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right.
No, looks like you got to do something else, Yago.
Okay. So, I'm stretching out my neck. So,
This is all you, man.
threaded steel bar. All right. So, there's the ESPN World's Strongest Man competition.
Yeah.
You used to be able to qualify by taking a bar like this, placing it around their neck, and then bending it into the shape of a U, and then So our team used to do that. That was the easy way to do it. It's still pretty difficult, but that was the easier way to do it. And then we started looking for more painful places to do it, so we started bending it over our skulls.
Jeez.
Yeah. And but today, I'm gonna try to bend it in my teeth.
Oh.
Now this is gonna stink for a lot of reasons. One of them is that this thing's been sitting in my my garage, and cold has an effect on steel.
Oh, no.
So, all right.
Come on, Yago. Come on. Come on, Yago. You got this.
Here we go. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on.
There you go.
Come on. Come on.
There you go.
Here we go. Come on. Get it, Yago.
Got this.
Here we go. Come on. Come on. Get it. Get it. Come on, Yago. Get it. Get it. Come on. Go. Go, baby. Go. There it is. Go. Over the top. Over high. Here we go. All downhill from here. Let's go. There you go. Come on. Cross it. Let's go. Come on, Yago. Get it. Come on. Get it.
Woo! All right, now that the hard stuff is done, how about we get to know these guys a little bit more with some seats and a lot less screaming. Hey guys, thank you so much. We had a whole lot of fun there with these officers. Did something pretty amazing, and Rockford has definitely set the bar high for feats of strength. For all of the other departments, we're coming your way. We're bringing the same feats. You guys are gonna get your shot. But now we want to have a conversation. Want to get everybody to get to know the human behind the badge, yeah. So you guys just gonna just talk, man. Just want to get to know you guys. Man, guys, I wish we was recording a whole lot more, man, because these are great officers. Got to know them quite a bit, talking to them and stuff like that, and so we're gonna hear their heart behind why they became cops and what they want to do for Rockford community. So thank you guys so much for doing this. Let me start with Officer Ian. Is officer or sergeant or what?
We're actually public safety officers,
Okay.
so we say PSO, but Officer Graham's good, or Officer Ian, or you can just call me Ian. I don't mind.
Okay.
I'm not real formal. So thanks a lot for being here, Yago.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
And this has been fun. We didn't know that feats of strength would be that much fun, and I didn't know that I had the ability to do that. So I learned something new about myself today.
Oh, dude, you're gonna have a lot of officers mad at you.
Oh, some bragging rights.
Trust me.
Some bragging rights. I'm all good with that.
Yep. And Officer Jay, thank you so much for this. Jay short for
Joel.
Joel.
Yeah.
Officer Joel. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, first, let me. What got you guys into wanting to be a police officer?
You know, I always had an interest in government. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I came from a family where my dad was a doctor, just a small town country doctor, and my mom was big about service. I mean, doing things to the church, doing things in the community when she could. And I was actually working at a restaurant, and there was a guy from the Walker Police who was a sergeant on nights at that time. Now we know him as Chief Greg Long. But at the time he was a night sergeant, and he asked me if I'd ever considered it. And I said, no, man, I've never thought about being a cop before. He was like, oh, you ought to look into it. And his encouragement led me to do a ride-along, and that ride-along with an officer who's retired now named Brad Williams, I saw the potential of the job, that it was problem-solving, that it was something different every day, that, you know, in 1 minute you'd be working traffic, the next minute you'd be responding to a call, the next minute you're sitting somewhere writing reports. You were always doing something different, and that really appealed to me. And once I got into it, I was hooked. There was no turning back. So.
When I was a kid, I've always respected police, and I always found what they stood for was good, and they stood up for people, and they did the right things for the right reasons, and they were community-based, and they had integrity, character, and they stood up for, you know, what was right. And I always respect that, and I always wanted to be that person that led the charge of doing the right thing and showing the community that I'm here for them, more like a community policing kind of oriented person. And I see what they did, or saw what they did in the community, and I want to be that person because I've seen the changes that they make. You know, they were my heroes, and I want to grow up to be a hero too, so I can be a hero to my family, to my children, and to, most important, the society, give something back to them. So that was really something that I looked at, and I really wanted to be that person to fill those shoes.
And by being a Rockford cop and being able to do that with such a close-knit community here, how's that feel, like being able?
It's a great community, and we have community support. I mean, I know a lot of our friends that work in larger departments don't always feel the same community support that we do here in Rockford, but we became public safety officers. We're not just police officers here, we're firefighters and medical first responders, so our citizens do see us a lot. And we're a community policing-based department, so we're out in the public, we're walking around, we're shaking hands. We have an active DARE program, which you don't see many DARE programs left in the state of Michigan. It's not the DARE that you and I remember from when we were kids.
Right.
Now it's focused more on decision making, and it's a positive influence for the fifth graders and the middle schoolers that we talk to, because it allows them to have the personal interaction with their own police officer. For 10 weeks, the fifth graders at Rockford Public Schools have their own personal police officer to ask every question they've ever thought of. And if you think about our experience with law enforcement, for instance, growing up, I mean, yeah, we knew a few police officers here and there, or at least we maybe knew where they were, but how much of it came from TV?
Right.
I mean, if I think about 10-year-old Ian Graham thinking about being a police officer, he's thinking about Detective Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon.
Right.
Riding around in that pickup truck with the jeans and the gun stuck in. That isn't reality, but when I was a kid, I perceived that as reality because it's official. And I think we see that today with kids, what they get from the media and their exposure to what they think law enforcement is versus who we actually are as individuals and what we actually do in the community. It's two different things. So we're constantly kind of fighting an uphill battle there to change that perception. Because I just saw there's another movie coming out. Denzel's going to be another movie about cops. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that if I watch that movie or my friends in law enforcement watch that movie, it's not going to be accurate. There's going to be some stuff in there that's cool and it's going to be fun, but it's not what we really do. So how much of that can you take in as a person and not have your perceptions of law enforcement changed by it? And then you meet the real thing, and we're pretty ordinary people. Sometimes we have a tough job, sometimes we have an easy job, depending on the day. But that sticks out to me about Rockford is that the individuals in our community get to spend that time with us, and I think that we have a lot of community support because of that.
I'd have to agree completely that the community really backs us up and shows us the support. And we wear three hats: we're fire, we're medical, and we're police. So I completely agree with you in that they do see us quite a bit, and we're out there visible to the public in all those different roles where they get to know us as individuals, not just someone putting boots on and uniform on and doing something. And I think that's important because they trust us. They look at us as being their mentor, their teacher, their counselor, all jack of trades to be there for them. The support pours in, and you have that partnership between the department and the community. I mean, City of Rockford community is great. They show us a lot of support, and they vocalize that too.
Tell me about the DARE program. Like you said, I'm pretty familiar with it. Like when I was a kid, but
Sure.
But like a little bit more about that and how the kids.
It really used to, in the 80s when it was created, it was really created to deal with the crack epidemic that was going on through inner cities across the U.S. And prior to it, there really was nothing else there. And so when DARE started, it wasn't perfect by any means when it started, but it was something. And so that's why it caught on and spread across the U.S. But the modern DARE program is focused on decision making. So in one lesson, we talk about alcohol and tobacco, and we define drugs as something that affects the way your mind and body works. Okay. And we don't go into all the different specific drugs, because as you know, there's just a ton of them out there. But what we talk about instead is decision making. Because if I'm realistic, and I think most officers probably share the same opinion, when we start in law enforcement, we're after the bad guy. There's bad guys out there, we have to arrest bad guys and stop them from hurting good guys, and that's part of our attitude when we come out. When we get out here into the real world, that's not reality. The reality is we have mostly good people, like 99.9% good people, just a lot of them make bad decisions. And we find that those people that are typically making bad decisions and ending up on the wrong side of the law have substance abuse problems, mental health problems, or a combination of both. And there are very few people that are of sound mind and body that don't have any substance abuse issues that just break the law for fun.
Right.
So when you start to recognize that, you realize that criminality, both with younger people and with adults, comes down to decision making. So if we hit these kids in 5th grade when they're 10 years old and talk to them about making good decisions and about looking at all the different angles and understanding a decision making process that they can use in the future, our hope is that as they become adults, they continue to use a process like that to make good decisions. Because if you think about the crimes, the things that I've done wrong as a kid and as a teenager and even as an adult, most of them were just bad choices. And I knew better in some cases, but for whatever reason, in that set of circumstances, I didn't follow the decision-making process that I should have, and it led to a bad outcome. And I think that most people we deal with are like that. I know your experience in your first year here, it's been the same, but when you start to view the public that way and say, Jesus, it's normal people making bad choices, it changes your perspective a little bit, I think.
That's really important why we got the DARE program.
Yeah.
That what you do is extremely important to the community because we can have kids at a young age and help them grow to be better and make better decisions.
Did you, because you're from DC, but you can talk to adults that are our age around here and they remember who their DARE officer was.
Yeah.
And the guys, the DARE officers that came before me, a couple of them, Officer Bradley was great, Chief Robinson was a DARE officer at one time. Those kids will remember who their DARE officer was because those 10 weeks are impactful.
Yeah.
And they may not remember every element of every lesson that we teach them, but that person-to-person time where they can ask those questions. And when they get a little older, even in my experience now, I think this will be my third year teaching DARE, I have kids that are now 7th graders that don't hesitate to walk up to me on the street and talk to me because they know who I am, not just how I'm dressed. And I think that that's the importance of the program. And I know that the Michigan State Police have done the TEAM program, which is kind of modeled after the same idea. And I'd like to see, as budgets come back, I'd like to see that stuff catch on a little more because it really is impactful. We're not going to be able to help every single person, but if we can put a good decision-making process in place for the majority of kids, then we're going to see the majority of kids making good decisions when they get older and hopefully not breaking laws and getting in trouble. So.
Right. Yeah, you hit on a lot of things. One of the things you mentioned was seeing people as people that make bad decisions. That seems like that comes from a really empathetic heart, like you're putting yourself in their shoes, and that's huge. I don't think that the public perception they feel that way, and so I'm like that's because in my opinion the media is trying to make sure that the public views law enforcement as an entity that's here to hurt. And even one of my cop friends, he said he actually doesn't even like the term law enforcement. He's like I'm into community, and this and that. He's like, there's just I don't know about the whole wordplay and all that other stuff, but he's another one that really puts himself into the shoes of the person that's being pulled over or the person that's being investigated and stuff like that. Something that with Rockford being as close and tight as it is, what do you find the most and like we talked a little bit off before we started recording about like some of the things that kind of hurts a little bit more because it's such a small community when you hear about these kind of things. What do you think that Rockford struggles with the most?
We have a safe community, and as a result of that, we have people that often don't take things seriously. So they'll have a nice car parked in front of their nice house with the doors unlocked and valuables inside. And so
Guilty.
Lots of little things that would help us out, like, man, just lock the door. It would just help us out a little bit. I know that in my career, the most difficult cases that we've had here in town are generally things involving kids, because it is the type of environment where when someone is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, it's very obvious. I mean, everybody knows everybody's business in a small town of Rockford like this, and when a kid gets on a bad path or makes some bad choices, I think it's magnified a little bit here. I think that if you're in a bigger community where there's more people and less people are watching, you can get away with a little bit. You can make some bad choices. You can, and some of it's just the learning curve. I mean, they're trying things and finding out what works and what doesn't work. But in a small community, it's really noticed, and everybody knows your name, everybody knows your business, and that can be really tricky. As police officers here, we don't have the call volume that you see in a big city like Grand Rapids or Kentwood or Wyoming. We have the same types of calls, but I think the main difference is that when it's my call till it's done. There's no detective bureau to send it to. I may call a supervisor in on something if I want some advice or I want some help, but it makes us a little more rounded as officers. And because we're around so much and we develop those personal relationships, when those kids start making bad decisions or we start dealing with them for whatever reason, they end up dealing with the same officers over and over again, and it can create a little bit of friction. So it takes some work, and it takes some true communication to try to come to a common ground and solve these problems.
You pretty much nailed it. So
I'm old, dude. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, you've been here a lot longer than I have, so yeah, you definitely hit a lot of good points, and I not really much more I can add because.
Well, you know what? When you said that, because there's like so few, I guess, cops that you kind of, talking to the same people a lot. It seems like, for me, I would have really liked that. If back home in D.C., I would have really liked that. I when I see the same cop and all, because we had so many that it just seemed like I don't know if I've ever seen the same cop twice.
Yeah.
And I think like in that kind of situation, that would be tough to build relationships, because it's always talking to a new person around the corner, a new person down the street, that kind of thing. You had mentioned, I really wanted, see, one of the things that I really want is for people to know, like, what kind of help is out here too. So like we were talking about like one of the things I do is try to help people when they get out of jail, out of prison, like with reentry programs and stuff like that. So when I have people that's being paroled out to Grand Rapids or Kentwood or now even Lansing, I have like certain avenues that I can direct them to. But like for here, is there any kind of help if somebody's trying to put their life back together around here?
Mostly we're sending them down to the city of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Part of what we have available to us in our community is based on what's needed for the community, and there's not a lot of reentry going on here. We obviously have drug abuse like every community does, but we don't have any treatment centers that are in town or anything like that. So a lot of things are going down to the city of Grand Rapids, and we're using the different hospital systems. I mean, depending on if it's something we can take somebody down by ambulance, or the YWCA, depending if we're dealing with domestic violence type stuff. It's a little different for us because the bigger departments are a little more involved with those agencies, whereas the Children's Advocacy Center, for instance, there are detectives from Penn County and Grand Rapids that are actually there in the center every day working. Once every 3 months, we might go down there. So when we do, it's nice to have our friends from other departments there to kind of guide us along and help us. But we are steering our citizens towards the resources that are already there. They're just mostly not here in the community. So we're fortunate. We don't have. We're not seeing the list of crimes that you're seeing every day in GR.
Right.
They're happening here. They're just happening with near the volume and or frequency. So we're handling them, but we're fortunate that it's not every day.
What is something that would surprise people to know about what you guys do?
I think that with that question about what we experience every day, in a sense, because there's days where we could have good days. We could have meet a lot individuals where we have good experiences, but there's other times where we go to a complaint that we don't know. We get called to dispatch to a complaint, whether it be domestic or anything else, and we go there with the mindset of, okay, well, we got to try to handle this. But then you got to switch roles of wearing different hats. You got to sit there. You got to be an active listener. You got to listen to what they say, and you got to understand what they're saying and really put yourself in their shoes, like we talked about earlier. And that's if everything goes smooth and everyone is calm and quiet. Or it could go all the way around where we go there and all of a sudden it turns into an assault, and then now we have to go that route. So there's some times where we go to complaints at the end of it, and I know we talked about this earlier, that we will just go to another call afterwards because it's pending waiting for us to go to. We don't know what that's going to be. So whatever happened during that last complaint, whatever emotions that we felt during that thing, during the complaint, we just hold in and go to the next one, and then go to the next one. And there's not really any debriefing time that we really have to kind of cope with what we see. And I think that sometimes, when people look at the uniform, I put on shoes like everybody else. I put on pants the same way everybody else. I bleed like everyone else. I'm human. And I think sometimes people will be surprised at the stuff that we get faced with. It's not easy at times. That, you know, we do have, you know, times where, you know, we do get, you know, maybe frustrated, or it does affect us in some ways.
I think you learn to process it differently after you do it for a long time. I think when that first recognition, like I talked about, where it's not us against them. It's not good guys versus bad guys. You're dealing with people, you're problem solving with people who are having issues and making bad decisions. When you come across those horrific things, I just was talking with a bunch of friends from high school yesterday because we lost a member of my class kind of suddenly. And she was a very outgoing, very happy, kind of a bring everybody together kind of person. Yeah. We were talking about it, all of a sudden it occurred to me that, you know, people die every day, and a lot of times we're there for that. But what makes it tragic? Why is it a tragedy? And in reality, it's a tragedy with the loss of my friend because she'll be missed. And she'll be missed because she was a positive person who put positive things out in the world and had an impact on those around her. And so it makes it tragic when we lose a person like that. And a lot of what we deal with here in town is those types of tragedies. They're difficult because they're people we know. I mean, many of the tragic incidents that we end up going to are people that I'm familiar with, or maybe I know a brother, or maybe I know a sister, maybe I know the person that's involved. And there's some decompression that needs to happen as a result of that, and particularly with our fire stuff as well. The members of our fire department, we have a police side, we have a Department of Public Works side, and we all come together and do the fire thing all at once. And some of these guys are born and raised here and have worked here their whole lives. I mean, they know everybody in town. And you get this bad call where somebody's having a heart attack and we're all ripping over there. This is somebody that they've literally known their whole life. Now we're working on it. And so over years, you figure out ways to decompress. But I think Officer Katz said something important. It's that the worst incidents that I've been part of, and there have been a few over the years that I'm not the same after that. I learned, I adjusted. I had a hard time a couple different times with stuff after I left it. Particularly a few of the things that involve kids, because I have kids myself. And one of the incidents, the little girl that was involved was the same age as my son. And she survived the incident, but when she left the scene that we were at with her, she was not alive. And it took me probably 2 days to realize that was bothering me. And I talked to a much older, more experienced officer who said, well, have you gone down to see her at the hospital? Why would I do that? I mean, I'm on to the next call. I got done with that, and I don't get to go home at the end of that. I go to the next call, and I keep working. I have to write the reports and keep reliving it for days. And she said, go down there and talk. Just go down there and see her. And so I went down to the Children's Hospital and walked into her room, stood there at the door and looked at her, and yep, there she is. She's alive. And some little switch flicked inside my head, and I was okay with it. But those days leading up to that, to actually going and seeing her, it was affecting me in a way that I didn't understand yet. And I think that, particularly with our younger officers, they're now coming up in an environment where we do critical stress debriefings, where we decompress as a group, and we talk about these things together. And there's no longer a feeling like it's not okay to share your feelings. It's not okay to not be okay. And that's, it's one of the things that we tell our students in DARE, that sometimes you're not okay. Sometimes, we show up at work and we're having a bad day, fighting with wives or husbands or whatever, or you got a flat tire on the way to work, or you just don't feel well because you didn't get enough sleep or whatever. And you have to be able to admit that you're a person too, that you have to put your uniform on, you have to do your job, you have to be this persona of a police officer, but you're also still a person. You can have your bad days. So.
What I experienced when I first got into this was kind of surprised me is that when you go to calls, I couldn't be wait to be a cop. I was excited. Put the uniform on. Let's go out there. Let's make a difference. And there's some times where you go to complaints and you're thinking that it's going to be civil, it's going to be good, but then you're exposed to new things. You're exposed to different kind of complaints that you've never dealt with people or that situation before, and then you leave there. And I think a lot of people, think that when we go through all these kind of complaints, all these feelings, emotions, that we just kind of get rid of it. And we don't, and that, when I first started, that was a hard thing for me to adjust to, is saying, okay, I had a bad day, but I'm not going to go home and take it out on anybody else. I have to separate what I saw, what I heard at work, and be home and be that husband, that father. And I think it makes a big difference when you have a department with a bunch of men and women that are supportive, that listen to you. And then you got a good family structure that they understand that you got into a profession, a career, that you are going to see the bad, that you are going to see the ugly. It's not that, that's something that we look forward to, but that's what, to me, that's what I took the oath for. That's why I have a badge. That's why I became a police officer, is to go out there and make a difference in people's lives that don't have the same luxuries of other ones, or are stuck in a situation that they can't get out of, and they just need that officer that's going to sit there, listen to them, and help them. And I think that it makes a big difference in, especially the structure within the department and family and outside friends.
It kind of brings up something that we were talking about earlier, where I would say that the most interesting part of our job is definitely seeing how other people live. That I'm from up north, we talked about that off camera a little bit, and my experience growing up and my experience in the household that I grew up in was very similar to the experiences of my friends, because we tend to be drawn towards people who are like us.
Sure.
So I go over to their house, and dinner kind of operates the same way, and bedtime operates the same way. But in our role now, we go into these houses with these other families that operate in a completely different way than I've ever perceived day-to-day life to operate. And it's kind of mind-blowing at first.
Yeah.
And then you start to see things that are really kind of messed up by your personal gauge of what normal is.
Right.
And you start to realize, well, some of this stuff works. It's totally different than what I've exposed to, but it works. And some of this stuff is so jacked up that I can't understand how these people are even functioning in society.
Right.
And then you realize they're not functioning in society. They're the people that are making those decisions, or they're turning towards substances to try to cope with the situations that they're in. And it really changes your perspective a little bit. But I don't think I knew that coming into this job. I think I just assumed that my neighbor lived the way that I did.
Yeah.
And I had no idea until I started walking in their house, looking around, going, oh my gosh, this is how you live, like day to day, really? So,
Yeah, with what you just said there, I forget where I heard it, but it just kind of stuck in my head, where this guy was talking about, this guy had gotten into cooking and stuff. Anyway, short version of it, he was like, the person that he was talking to was like listening to him describe how he's cooking and all he's all into cooking and all into this, and the guy was like, well, yeah, that's always been a thing. And the dude, he was like, you didn't know that? And then the guy said this, and this is the phrase that kind of stuck with me. He was like, well, we always knew the recipe, but we just never had the ingredients. And the dude was like, oh, and then like opened up this whole new thought pattern for him. And it was like, it kind of spoke to me to where, like, I have a pretty bad background and all of this stuff. And it started speaking to me to where I'm like, looking at different neighborhoods, different societies, and seeing how certain things operate. And like you said, you kind of go into a house or something, and you're like, man, how's this work? And it's like, oh, they might not have the ingredients. They might want to make better decisions, but what kind of options do they have? What kind of ingredients are in their cabinet drawers? What kind of food is in their refrigerator? They're like, man, you keep on calling in the school sick. Why? Okay, well, yeah, mama doesn't cook. She just makes, orders pizza every single night, McDonald's every single night, or whatever the case is. And then you start going, oh, okay, so this is why this is that way. And then so back to thinking about like my son. My son is he is an avid skateboarder. And,
yeah. In Rockford, no way.
Yeah. This kid, he's awesome. And he was like, yeah, I wasn't able to skate. I got, he didn't get in trouble. He didn't get a ticket, but a cop told him, hey, you can't skate here. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We don't have a skate park here, and I would love to see that happen, but we don't. And then so I was just thinking about like, we got a lot of kids or a lot of people that, especially with this COVID thing, and it's like all of the recreational options are being taken away, and it's like you get to this point where like for my kid, okay, well, I have a full throttle gym at my house, and so me and him work out, and and I can
keep him busy
talk. I can keep him busy. I can keep my kids busy, and then I start thinking about like these kids that like that don't have a positive outlet, and they find themselves getting into trouble, and it's like, all right, well, what other options, what other legal, safe, fun options are there? And like there's just
That's one we struggle with. I mean, my very first day as a Rockford police officer, the very first thing I dealt with was a skateboarder downtown. And what's happened over the years here is that the downtown area has become no skateboarding. And there were very specific reasons why. I mean, we had skateboarders that were
damaging
like,
stuff.
they were grinding on stuff, and
Right.
they were messing up benches, messing up curbs and stuff, which is it really that big of a deal? Not really, unless you're the DPW and you got to keep replacing
Right,
these benches.
right, exactly.
And then we had business owners that were complaining about skateboards whipping by when their customers are walking out. So they just said, okay, this district, we're not doing it. And everybody was on board with it at first. And then years go by and we kind of forget why we made those rules in the first place. And then it's, well, I just need something for my kid to do and whatever. So I think they have put a skateboard park into the plans for a park that's going to go in behind Parkside Elementary.
Well, I hope so.
But there's a whole other list of responsibilities that come with that.
course.
And so what we end up having is a lot of people want some freedoms. They want more things to do, but nobody ever talks about what responsibilities are. So who's going to maintain the park? Who's going to watch it? Who's going to deal with the problems that pop up there? And we need to talk about that as a community and make it a community solution. Because if not, guess who gets to be the bad guy? Who shows up there and says, man, you can't skateboard.
Right.
And it may be one kid who skateboards down the middle of the street on Main Street, well, when Main Street's open, at full speed, and we get a motorist call and say they almost hit some kid in a skateboard. So we go rolling down there, and we find another kid on a skateboard, probably not the same kid, but we start having to deal with those issues again. And they come back up every year. But it's the community solution to the problem. That we need to be, we're part of the solution, but we're not the whole solution, you know? And I think you hit the nail on the head with constructive things for kids to do when we were all that age at one time. We know you're trying stuff out, you're trying to do different stuff, figure out who you are. But trying to do it in a positive, constructive way can be difficult if you don't have the direction. And not every parent can be home 24/7 to keep guiding their kids one way or the other. So, and we try in the best ways that we have available to us, but we only have so many tools in our bag to deal with juveniles, you know. And it's not all stuff that you want. I mean, you don't need their name in reports and stuff if you can avoid it. So.
Yeah. I didn't mean to take it down a rabbit hole for the skateboard.
No, dude,
It's
it's been popping up my whole career, and we'd go a time where we just wouldn't have any, and then like we opened a skate shop. There's a skate shop downtown now.
Oh yeah.
In the downtown that you can't skate in, there's now a skate shop. I mean, it blew my mind when it came up. I think it's a cool business. Like it's a great idea, and I know that there was a skate park at one time behind North Rockford Middle School, but they had a lot of problems with it, so they shut it down. So maybe it's a different group of kids, and maybe we'd have better luck this time. We'll see. But I have yet to have somebody say, I'll open a skate park in my backyard and I'll be responsible for it. So maybe that's something you can do.
Yes, I can sign some waivers. Or
Yeah,
breaks his shin. Yeah. But I really, and that just kind of like draws back to Rockford being like. If that's one of the
Mayberry.
biggest,
like
that's one
Mayberry.
of the biggest issues.
Crime of the century, skateboarding.
So, but no, I wanted to ask you guys about two other things. Did Rockford do something for Christmas? Like shop with a cop, something like that?
We do. We have basically every 2 months we have another community event, and we do shop with a public safety officer every year. The Rockford Mire, the Rockford Lions Club, the Rockford Rotary, and then the Rockford Public Schools help us out with it. And we identify some kids that, especially like this year with COVID, man, so many people out of work, that they might not be going to have a great Christmas, and a lot of money gets donated to us. And traditionally, we will go out to Mire, and the kids will come out there, parents will drop them off, and each officer takes a kid, and usually one of the Lions volunteers with us, or one of the Rotarians does, and officers will bring their husbands or wives to help. Like, I don't pick out little girls' clothes that well. I mean, I have a little girl, but now she's dressed in weird clothes, so I don't even know how to pick out anything for her. So we'll have people that'll come along with us and help out. And this year, instead of doing it that way, we got lists from the parents that describe what kind of toys they like. And we went out to Mire, and Officer Bradley and I bought all the toys, and then we delivered them with police cars and fire trucks to the different houses. And every couple months, we'll do youth night, where we'll invite kids that are 5th graders through 8th graders to come to MVP and spend a couple hours playing dodgeball, basketball.
And the Conquerors are going to be there.
Conquerors will be there. We had laser tag one year. We've had that a couple of different years now. And that's part of what we do here. We're involved in every couple months something different. National Night Out, Youth Night, start of summer, we have all these different things going on. I personally have got really involved with Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics. I'm on the executive board for that. We're actually going to meet here on Friday, and we usually do a polar plunge. We do a fire truck pull every year, and it's all to raise money for Special Olympics.
You do a fire truck pull?
Do a fire truck pull. Rockford is the, I think your
We
team,
got some big boys.
We
on
do
our
a
team.
10-man team.
Might want a piece of that
And
too.
right now, Rockford holds the record. We have 2 years in a row. We beat every other department that's challenged us. Rogue River CrossFit has the best time so far.
Okay.
Because you know those CrossFit guys. Those,
Yeah,
they do all
man.
kinds of. But no, we do it right out here in the start of summer when, in a normal year. We hook a rope up to this truck. We pull it for distance. But all of these events aren't possible without that community engagement.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed the amount of money we raise for Special Olympics every year. And
That's
if
awesome.
if you've ever met those athletes, that's my personal passion. And each guy has something different. Each of our officers has something different that they become passionate about. And it's for me, it's Special Olympics. Probably the rest of my life, not just the rest of
Okay.
my career. I'll be involved with Special Olympics. But the chief, when I go to the fire chief and the police chief and say, hey, I want to do this, I want to raise money, they yep, go ahead. What do you need from us? That's basically the way this community is. Then I start putting it together, and I have the Chamber of Commerce, and I have business owners coming to me saying, hey, how can we help? Not, oh my gosh, you're going to close part of the street to do this event. It's, how can we help? What can I do for this event? And we're lucky in that respect. But I think that's why we do something every couple months. The kids triathlon to try to, you talk about a positive outlet for kids. Well, let's get them interested in health and wellness. Let's have them come and compete a little bit. And I think we're unique in that, because a lot of departments will focus on community policing or have a unit for it like Grand Rapids does, but they don't have the manpower, man. I mean, they're short like 100 officers there to actually do the things they want to do.
Right.
So they do what they can, but I know like Sergeant Gomez has probably got a list of stuff he's not even able to do that he wants to do.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate here to be able to do it all. So
Yeah, I'm working with him on a couple projects right now for GR.
good.
Yeah.
Good. They definitely need the help. They need some more officers in that department.
Yeah, I like that. You guys involved every couple months. That's awesome. That's awesome.
We do our best to involve, the Sheriff's Department has a very good community policing program, and so we work with them on a couple of our events. Anytime we can get local volunteer fire departments involved, because, I mean, that's another group of people that work in public safety that really only see bad stuff. I mean, if you're a volunteer firefighter, you go and do training a couple times a month, and then you sit at home and wait for bad things to happen, and then you get called out and have to deal with bad things. So it's cool for us to be able to say, hey, come bring your fire engine, get dressed up, plan on shaking hands with some kids and showing them some stuff on the truck, and be a positive part of this event. And we always get a great response from our area. We touch 4 townships, touch the city of Rockford,
Right.
and those 4 departments, Plainfield, Algoma, Cortland, and Cannon, are always really interested in the things that we're doing and participating with us in it. So how was that stuff felt? I mean, did you think that when you started here that we were involved in so much? And now granted, COVID's kind of messed up your first year, but did you realize that this department did all that stuff every year?
No, not at first. Not at first. I mean, I know the department is a very community policing oriented department. And when I first got here, I mean, I knew some things that the department did, but I was just surprised and very excited to be part of something bigger, because this department has, like you mentioned, of all the things that we're involved with in the community, making changing the youth mindsets and being involved in their lives and the communities and people that live in the community in their lives and making a difference, and having the community see us as as individuals, as humans, and using what we have, our resources, to reach out to them to have great experiences where they can look back and say, man, I can't wait to talk to Officer Graham if I see him on the street again, or any other officers. So this is a great department. We do a lot for the community, and the community really appreciates that, and they let us know. I mean, I'm proud to be a part of what we have going on here.
Glad you're in our community.
Hey, man, I love being part of it, man. I've lived here my son is 15 now, so I've lived here for about 16 years. I've loved it the whole time. So
I just want to say thank you. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing here. I understand I watched the video you did with Sergeant Gomez, and I understand that part of your aim is to let your viewers know that individual officers are more than just a uniform. And one of the things that I've noticed over my career is that I will meet somebody at work, and then I'll see them 3 days later at the gym, and they don't recognize me. And they don't recognize me because they're not looking at my face. They're not listening to my voice. They're looking at my uniform. They're looking at the belt and all that. Yeah. And that shows me, and not in a disrespectful way, that people aren't necessarily seeing us all as individuals and understanding that the police as a group isn't really a group. It's a profession.
Yeah.
I mean, if a postman does something bad, we don't blame all postmen for it. If a milkman does something bad, we don't blame all milkmen for it. And there's been this shift over the last probably 10 years that I've seen in my career where an officer in Minneapolis does something that none of us agree with. That I can't find a cop who says, you know, doesn't look good, but it probably, no, nobody feels that way. Everybody feels that it was bad, but somehow the entire profession is tarnished. And it's difficult for us because how do we go out there day by day and try to fix that perception? I mean, I just go out there and be myself and do the things that I'm assigned to do. And sometimes they're good things, sometimes they're bad things. But you taking the time and the effort to put this on and to have these exchanges where people can actually hear this stuff and see, man, there's some thought behind some of the stuff they do. There's people in these uniforms. We're appreciative of that. So
I appreciate it, and it's because, you know, I've run into so many amazing police officers, and I don't like the way that they're being painted with this broad brush, you know, and you know, and it's not accurate and it's unfair. So and I want you guys to be able to share your stories and for the community to know, like, okay, you know, like, because a lot of people don't know. They think that the only thing a cop is here to do is to arrest somebody, and they don't know about all of the other organizations that you guys are involved with. They don't know about all the community events you guys are involved with, and you know, so I feel it's very, very important that we get that word out there. That's how you build relationships. That's how you build community.
we definitely appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.